What is your answer to young people?
Well, why don't you try reformulating that so that there's an actual question there?
Damn. He disrespectful. No bullshit, let's go. Welcome to Devin GTV, where I act like I know a whole lot. I try to learn a little bit, but I don't really know shit. So today we're about to watch Jordan Peterson destroy some liberals. So I have never ever actually seen anything with Jordan Peterson in it. I've heard a little bit about him. I know he's extremely intelligent and he don't put up with no crap. I guess he's conservative. I guess. I mean, since he don't like liberals or he's destroying them. So before I get started, if you're new to the channel, go ahead and smash that thumbs up, like, share, and comment. Also, like some more. That right there will help my channel out, and I will greatly appreciate it. So, anyway, let's get to it.
Why is society overly feminized?
Well, I didn't ever say that society was overly feminized. So if we're going to discuss my views, we should use my actual word. What is the purpose precisely?
I am quoting things that you said.
Why? What is it that you're trying to establish?
Because you said them.
I thought we were talking about masculinity.
We are.
No, we're not.
Yes, we are.
How are we talking about masculinity?
Because I'm asking you what you think of men and of women.
Basically what you've been trying to do, I would say, for the last 15 minutes is put me into a sequence of corners by accusing me of various forms of misbehavior. So why are we doing that?
So, it sounds like he's trying to get him to admit to something. Because I assume there was either a previous interview or a previous statement.
What's the point here?
These are things that you said. My job as a journalist is to ask questions about what you represent and the ideas that you defend.
Your job is also to select the things that you might ask about in some manner that doesn't indicate a substantive bias. You picked 3 things to talk to me about in the last 20 minutes that were very carefully selected. Like, why did you pick those things?
Because this is
say something so I can take what you said and piece something else together and make you like a damn idiot.
Your right to freedom of speech trump a trans person's right not to be offended.
What?
Because in order to be able to think, you have to risk being offensive. I mean, look at the conversation we're having right now. You know, like, you're certainly willing to risk offending me in the pursuit of truth. Why should you have the right to do that? It's been rather uncomfortable.
Well, I'm very glad I put you on the spot.
Well,
I'm very glad that I have exercised my freedom of speech.
You get my point.
What if I'm offended by you being a transgender? Then what? So I should care about your feelings, but screw mine. This is freedom of speech. You walk around with your signs, you know, wearing pink hair and, you know, getting your nails done and acting like you're a woman. That's cool. But I also have the right to voice my opinion. And if you're offended by that, that's your problem.
You're doing what you should do, which is digging a bit to see what the hell's going on. So and that is what you should do. But you're exercising your freedom of speech,
like everybody else,
certainly risk offending me. And that's fine. I think more power to you as far as I'm concerned.
So you haven't sat there and...
Got your ass.
I'm just trying to work that out. I mean...
Got you. Got you.
Ha, gotcha.
You have got me. You have got me.
Maybe you just think that women should be equally represented in the decision-making fora of our nation. Maybe that's really just about having proper equality in a body that's meant to be representative.
Well, I do believe that women should have... I don't understand your question, I guess.
I guess you don't. That's pretty obvious.
Ask the question.
Well, how about if you phrase it more...
How are you gonna make a statement, but then, like, not really ask a question? Because she didn't ask a precise question. It wasn't really direct. It didn't make any sense because she didn't even understand what she said.
Instead of just insulting me. Look at it this way.
He's gonna check her.
Let's talk about quotas for a minute. So there's a very wide array of jobs that are fundamentally done by men. So, for example,
Member of Parliament,
99.9% of bricklayers.
She don't want to hear this. She don't want to hear that.
I'm happy to give my minute to Jordan.
You can't shut him up.
99.9% of bricklayers are men. Should we have quotas for women?
Is bricklaying representative democracy?
That has nothing to do with the question. The question is if there's evidence of structural inequality and oppression because women aren't precisely represented at 50% in all professions at all levels, then why don't we have a conversation about having women represented in all professions at all levels? Why do we talk about the C-suite, for example? Why do we talk about politics and positions of power? Why don't we talk about it across the board?
You pick and choose where you want equality to be at. You can't say, I want a little bit of this. No, I don't want that. I'll take a fourth of that and a third of that. No. If you want equality, have it across the damn board. You can't say, I don't want to be out here in the sun, laying bricks, but I want to make that kind of money.
Well, that's my idea of the patriarchy, which is a system of male dominance of society.
Yeah, but that's not my sense of the patriarchy.
So what's yours?
Well, in what sense is our society male-dominated?
The fact that the vast majority of wealth is owned by men, the vast majority of capital is owned by men. Women do more unpaid labour.
A very tiny proportion of men, and a huge proportion of people who are seriously disaffected are men. Most people in prison are men. Most people who are on the street are men. Most victims of violent crime are men. Most people who commit suicide are men. Most people who die in wars are men. People who do worse in school are men. It's like, where's the dominance here precisely?
Check, 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 and check. Men have way less help with the government. That's the reason why a lot of men are on the street. Because we don't have nearly as much help. A woman can walk into a facility and say, hey, me and my babies don't have a place to stay. They're going to get a place to stay. And they're going to get food. Women pay less in car insurance. Women pay less in health insurance. I mean, shit, the list goes on.
What you're doing is you're taking a tiny substrata of hyper-successful men and using that to represent the entire structure of Western society. There's nothing about that that's vaguely appropriate.
But I could say equally well that most rape victims are women. Terrible things happen to people of both sexes.
And you could say that with perfect utility, but that doesn't provide any evidence for the existence of a male-dominated patriarchy.
Well,
it just means that terrible things happen to both genders, which they certainly do.
But there are almost no women who rape men, for example. So that is an asymmetry there in sexual violence.
Well, yes, there's an asymmetry in all sorts of places, but that doesn't mean that Western culture is a male-dominated patriarchy. The fact that there are asymmetries has nothing to do with your basic argument.
I want to know, what is your answer to young people for some of the really big problems facing humanity, like the climate catastrophe, like economic crisis, like the precarious job market? Because they just don't, you talk all this much about individual responsibility. Most of us are never going to be able to afford to have all of these assets to have responsibility over. So what is your advice beyond banal comments like clean your room?
All I heard was excuses. All I heard is excuses. Get your ass up and go get it. The United States, man, is equal opportunity. Land of the free. Get your ass out there and go work for it. Let's see what he feels say that.
Well, it's actually rather difficult to answer a question that ends with your comments are banal, politely.
What are you gonna say though?
So, I would consider that more of an opinionated, personal and political statement than actually a question. So why don't you try reformulating that so that there's an actual question there?
Damn. He disrespectful. Oh boy, he disrespectful in the most polite, educated way. He said you went rambling on, thinking you making a point. But you didn't really say nothing because you didn't ask a question. And think about what you said and ask me a proper question.
What is your
Look, he ain't crack a smile, boy. He didn't crack a smirk.
So what is your advice to young people when you talk about you need to be individually responsible, but when there are things that are so far out of our control, like climate catastrophe, like the precarious job economy, like the
They're not
economic
as far
crisis,
out of your control as you think.
Talk to her.
Answer
Do you think that you're worse
Talk
off
to her.
than you think that you're worse off than your grandparents?
We.
I think there are different challenges.
Do you think you're worse off than your grandparents?
I think that
Jordan, once again, we're not going to cross-examine our questioners.
Fundamentally, I'm a psychologist, and my experience has been that people can do a tremendous amount of good for themselves and for the people who are immediately around them by looking to their own inadequacies and their own flaws and the things that they're not doing in their lives and starting to build themselves up as more powerful individuals. And if they're capable of doing that, then they're capable of expanding their career. And if they're capable of expanding their career and their competence, then they're capable of taking their place in the community as effective leaders. and then they're capable of making wise decisions instead of unwise decisions when it comes to making collective political decisions. I'm not suggesting in the least, and have never suggested, that there's no domain for social action. I'm suggesting that people who don't have their own houses in order should be very careful before they go about reorganizing the world, which happens in...
God damn. God damn. Make sure you got your shit together before you come talk to me about equality and it being hard out here and, you know, climate catastrophe and things that don't matter. Because hard is hard, dog. Our grandparents had it hard. The people before them had it hard. Like, is it harder now than it was back in the day or what? Because in my opinion, I feel like there's more opportunity now than there ever has been. You just have to seize the moment, educate yourself, and learn a fucking skill. She don't like the truth.
Why do you feel that someone's personal gender identity and pronouns infringes your free speech? Can one not also argue, based on your interpretation, that professors can use racial slurs in their classroom and that the inability to do so would violate their freedom of speech?
There's a difference between saying that there's something you can't say and saying that there are things that you have to say. And I regard these made-up pronouns, all of them, as the neologisms of radical PC authoritarians.
This shit didn't exist. There was man and there was woman. All of a sudden, you have these pronouns that just came into existence over the last, what, year, 2 years, maybe? So these people, or whatever you want to call it, what happened? Where they come from? Like, they just sprout up from the ground or some shit? Like, are they in a lab making up these people?
Understand that. And I'm not a fan of that sort of person. And the reason I'm not a fan of that sort of person is because I've done my homework. I've read everything I can get my hands on in the development of authoritarian political systems, and I know the literature inside out and backwards. And I am not going to be a mouthpiece for language that I detest.
I'm not going to say what you want me to say. You don't control me. I know the truth. I've done my research, you know, and shit, I got book knowledge and I have education to back up what I'm saying. I have facts.
We had that series of statements from you. Speaking clearly is one of your 12 rules. And I wonder why it is that in a situation like that and in many other situations, what actually happens is that you sow confusion.
I don't sow confusion. The journalists that interview me sow confusion.
Well,
the woman who wrote the New York Times article.
That you get misinterpreted in your views so often.
With her it was absolutely clear. I spent 2 days with her and we spent 30 seconds talking about enforced monogamy, and she's a very smart woman and she knew exactly what I meant and chose to make that the centerpiece of the article for I would say, to attract attention in a way that was completely inappropriate.
But you know, it's not just a journalist from the New York Times. You know that this happens over and over and over.
That doesn't justify it, because it's the news. It's the journalists. They take what they want to hear and they manipulate it.
That's because the journalists read each other's journalism and they don't read the books and they don't watch what I'm saying.
Never with you. The fault is...
Well, no, the fault is sometimes with me. I mean, it's not like I
always... You say, I'm wrong sometimes. I ain't perfect. There are edits like crazy online. You can create a whole fucking movie and a film online of a person sitting there. They never existed.
People that have been trying to take me out, who've been over the and have not been able to find any.
If everyone who's going over the evidence dislikes me, they're going to try to find something. But he's a smart man. You can't make me say something I don't want to say.
I do stand by my original statement, though, that there's a brand of more radical feminism that insists that our culture is best characterized as an oppressive patriarchy, and I think that, first of all, that's an appalling sociological doctrine, and I think it has very negative psychological effects. And they won't be limited to men, because if it's true that there's something toxic, let's say, about masculinity per se, what that will inevitably mean is that as women adopt more masculine roles, traditionally, what is that toxicity somehow going to go away?
But that's a straw man, because no one says there's anything toxic about masculinity per se.
What do you mean no one says that?
People
The
use-
term How is that a straw man?
Well,
But where did the
because
term
it's
come
a phrase that's used about forms of masculinity that are harmful to men and women. It's not about masculinity per se. You must know that.
I
it's
read the
about
American
this.
Psychological Association guidelines for the treatment of boys and men, and I know perfectly well that this is no straw man.
I think what it is that people don't like the truth. He's an extremely educated man. He don't bite his tongue, and he won't say what they want him to say. And so because of that, they want to take him down. He don't believe in the crap that's going on today. Us being men don't make us stronger than women. There are certain things that women can do that men can't do. And there are certain things that men can do that women can't do. That doesn't mean that men are more superior than women or women are more superior than men. But anyway, hope you guys enjoy my reaction. Give your boy a thumbs up, like, share, and comment. If you're not subscribed to the channel, subscribe, and I'm out.